Hello and welcome back to Matt's Automotive Channel. In this video, we're going to start the teardown of the 4R70E that came out of 2001 Mustang. So let's get started. So now we'll go ahead and extract the transmission fluid using the vacuum pump through the fill tube. Once the fluid level is below the base of the fill tube, we can go ahead and remove the fill tube. Alright, after I sucked enough out to get the fluid below the dipstick tube where it enters, I just started a siphon, and it's now just currently siphoning out. Remember to dispose of your old transmission fluid responsibly. I just went ahead and pulled out the torque converter from the bell housing here in the input shaft, and everything looks pretty good in here. I don't see any leakage in this area. Once you have the torque converter out, remember to cap it off so no dirt debris will fall in there while you're working on the transmission. This actually looks really good. I mean, all the splines are clean and intact. There's no play in the input shaft. As tempting as it may be at this point to go ahead and clean off the housing here and get all that oil and debris off, it's a bad time to do it. If you were to hit this with a pressure sprayer, you would likely damage any of these electric components here. Water would get into them and wreck them. So we'll wait till we have a bare shell and then clean it up. All right, let's get started by pulling the transmission mount off. Alright, after cleaning up the bottom of this pan a little bit, it looks like this pan is equipped with a reusable gasket. Good, that's one less thing we'll have to buy. Let's begin the tear down with the removal of the lever position sensor located right here. It's held on with just two 8mm bolts. Next, we can remove the output sensor with this 8mm bolt. Next, we can remove the four 13mm bolts that hold the tailshaft housing on. I'll first break them loose manually. And then we can zip them off with an impact. And then there's two more 13mm bolts down here on the bottom. There we go. Now let's carefully remove the gasket. Now I've rolled the transmission over, exposing the bottom pan here, so we can go ahead and take out these 14 10mm bolts. Alright, and here's what the bottom of the pan looks like. It does have a magnet here, and you can see there's a little bit of debris that's accumulated on it, but I think that's pretty normal. Looks pretty clean actually. Right, next let's go ahead and remove the filter just by gently lifting and twisting back and forth, and it pops right out. Alright, next we can use a pry tool and gently lift up on this wiring harness. Next step is to remove the valve body. It is secured to the transmission with these 8mm bolts. There are some 10mm bolts too, but that's what secures this bottom metal part to the valve body. So only the smaller bolts go all the way through to remove the whole valve body. There's 25 of them, so we'll go ahead and remove those now. All right, with all the 8mm bolts out, this valve body should lift off. All right, next let's remove the case filter. Just simply lifts out. And then also this connector. I think we can just push it through from the outside in and then just lift it out. Next, we need to remove the 2 to 3 accumulator assembly. And then there's a piston down here, which we should be able to remove just by expanding some pliers in here. There we go. Okay, to get the 1-2 accumulator piston out, it's retained in with a snap ring, and of course there's a spring that's pushing up on the piston against the snap ring, which would make it very difficult and dangerous to get out. So I had to build this little tool that bolts into where the pan would normally bolt in, and then dead center over the piston. I got this little threaded rod here with a nut on the bottom that we can hold, and then twist this, and then it'll push down on the piston and relieve that tension. Now we can take the snap ring pliers and remove the snap ring safely. Now the ends of the snap ring weren't quite lining up, they were underneath this tool I built. So I just took a little blade screwdriver and then tapped it over, so now we can have good access to that snap ring with the snap ring pliers. Okay, now with the snap ring off, we can just unthread this and relieve the tension on that spring. Okay, now we should just be able to unthread this, move it. There we are, perfect. All right, and like we did before, we should be able to take these pliers and expand them out. And then lift the piston out. There we go. 1 to 2 accumulator piston, and then one more spring right here. There we go. Okay, now pretty much the same drill with the servo assembly. I had to create a different tool with a little different spacing here. But basically this is going to be the same drill where we just compress the piston to relieve the tension on the snap ring, and then we'll just pull the snap ring. All right, now let's just go ahead and remove the snap ring like we did before. And then we'll relieve the tension. piston. You can see there's a pretty beefy spring in this one. Same tool, different spacing on the holes, one more piston to go. All right, now we can pull this out. All right, well, at least we got all the pistons out. So this is probably a good place to terminate this video, and we'll continue tomorrow with the tear down on the next video. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye.